Okay, so we're kind of jumping around this Chanukah. So this class is kind of as time comes available. So this afternoon class by me here in Yerushalayim, which is in the morning in Chutz La'aretz, it's as the time comes available, especially over Chanukah. So try to keep as best as we can to finish the Sikha prior to the end of Chanukah. So let's bring up the text. We're talking about Abraham and Aharon, especially Aharon HaKohen, is the shepherd of love, the Farnes, Chesed, and Abba Gedola, the Abba Rabbah, the great love that's given through Aharon HaKohen that's limitless. And the Rebbe spoke about the idea that we finished off in that the energy should affect such a way that even the ceilings, even the house, which is a Makav Arachik, which is learned about this morning, can't even contain the energy, and that's because how it comes into space, that it should even break the Makav Arachik. Okay, we're going to start over from Siftes. The Rebbe says like this: the Maamar now, this Maamar that the Rebbe is quoting from the Tzemach Tzedek. Mamshech bein in Daber v'Marta continues with the question: why does it say Daber v'Marta? You should speak and tell, which is talking about Aharon HaKohen. So we learned from the Seres HaDibros that a person has that idea by Daber that we have to connect the Seres HaDibros with the Asara Memoris, the 10 commandments with the 10 utterances. So the utterances is what creates limitation in the world, and Torah is Kadmul Olam, before the world. And the idea is to take beyond the world and put it into the world, which is the principle of B'chlal in the Kavan Al Yena. The idea is that what's beyond limitations should come into limitations. What's beyond the Teva, the nature, should be beyond nature, should come into nature. So the Rebbe continues, now we're going to explain specifically what's the difference between the sayings and the utterances. This root of the letter word Maimoris is from the three elements missing the earth, which is fire, water, and ruach, and the spirit or the wind. So Eish Maim Ruach, what is the Eish Maim Ruach? That is what creates the voice, the coil. It's way the breath creates voice, not words or statements, but voice. So the Rebbe continues. Hold on, let's make sure we can flow this as best as possible. The voice in the kol hagorin, the voice in the throat. Shemurkav misaydes halal kunoides. You know that what are the three elements that create voice? Obviously not earth, which is eish maim ruach, which is fire, water, and wind. So the fire comes from the heart, hevel halev. The moisture comes from the brain through the throat, and together with the wind creates voice. And this is what's called speak, to speak, to speak. Like we say, a person's called a medaber, one who speaks, b'chlal in general. Remember, like it says, when man was created, first man was created, it says that the man is made to nefesh chayim, to a live being. And how does the Targum explain it? L'ruach mamala, a spirit that has mamala, from the words lemalel, to speak. That means that defines a person, that where a person can speak. So when the coil that comes out of the hevel halev, that comes out of the breath, so to say, of the heart, from the lungs, and it makes the 5 sounds of the alphabet, aleph, beis, gimel, dalet, hey, makes all the sounds. That's called dibur. That's still speaking. You do it. Amir is believe, but dibur bepep. That amira is more in the heart, and speaking is in the mouth. So basically, he's saying is that you have the power to speak is dibur, and then it goes into the actual pronunciation of the words, and then then there's the koil. And the idea is that the highest level, the source of speaking, goes into the actual words. Let the Rebbe formulate an idea here. So it says like the idea is not that we connect the beginning to the end. So the Rebbe says, sorry, I lost the place here. The power to speak is how one speaks. I mean, the speak comes from the power to speak. When a person speaks, the speaking itself clarifies things to the way that a person has more ability to more words even to articulate when you actually speak. When it's an idea in your head, it's kind of words, ideas in your mind. When it comes to actual speech, this is an idea. When a person speaks, it says speak it out, right? You prepare a speech, you speak it out. So then you know if it makes sense, if you get deeper ideas, it reach deeper into the essence of the idea. When it comes to intellect, when the person articulates an intellectual idea, when you speak it out, you could get to a deeper depth than if you just think of it. As it was in its mind before you spoke it out. Like it says, for instance, it also, the power of speaking kind of also helps what was within inside you before you spoke. And what's the proof? Like it says, the Aiga believe, if you have worries, talk it out. But like when a person talks out, it kind of relieves the person of the anxiety and the stress. We see talking, not only does it clarify an idea, it also helps emotionally a person who has worries. Talk it out. When you speak it out, the worries come less. Because just like when you speak something out, you get to the depth of the idea. Sometimes when you speak something out, you realize there's not as much to worry about maybe as you thought. Because the actual speaking is higher than the power to speak. Because until you actually speak something, then the power to speak is power to speak. When you actually speak it out, so both you could get the deeper understanding of the concept, and also emotionally, you could get things that are maybe sitting on your head as in a way of worry. When you speak it out, it also could change that. So no longer are you worried about it. So this is why it's in a person. So we can apply this. Sorry. Home computer here. It says, V'yuven zeh will understand this better. The Mailam. This that we say that the heaven and the earth was created through God utterances. These are called the Maamar, God's utterances. It's an idea in the Zohar that says Golif Gilifu B'tirei Love, that from the purest place comes the roots of the ability to articulate. Means the letters, the words that were engraved within the essence of God. That's the source of the 10 utterances that created the world. But when they come down, Lisibas Brias Ha'olemas V'levushim Hashayachim Ha'olemas, and it comes down in a way that creates. V'hushinikr Mamoris, that's when it comes utterances. From Rekavim B'yasoidis Canal, that they're made up of the 3 elements, and you actually, God, so to say, utters out the utterances of creation. So he says the Maamar is the way God speaks it out. The world came into creation. Torah is what he calls is the way it is in its root, in its purity. So we just spoke. There's a difference when you speak something out actually, or when you have the power, the words in your head. So the words in your head is the idea, but there's something special about speaking something out. Like we said, A, you could get to the clarification of the idea, and B, you could also change things. You could change the worries. So creating of the world was the utterances. The koach hadiba, the power to speak, is where Torah comes from. So the root of the 10 commandments comes from the koach hadiba, the power to speak. And when a person actually speaks them out, like it says, my words that I get placed in your mouth, which is the words of Torah. These are actually words of Hashem. And again, then when you articulate through creation, a person comes into being, into a person, and you speak out the words of the Torah, then you're bringing out the ideas of the Torah, the koach hadibur, into the actual, to the poyel hadibur, into the speech, which means the God is putting the words of Torah into our mouth, and we're actually speaking it. Okay, mitzvah Torah b'dibur b'petafka. Therefore, a person can't be yotzeh. You can't fulfill the mitzvah of chiyuv limud Torah only by thinking Torah. You have to actually speak the words of Torah. It says in the Shema, we say we speak the words of Torah. As we learn out, you have to be moitzi, you have to take the words out of your mouth. Until he says, okay, this is all quoting a complicated idea that is from the Tzemach Tzedek, and the Rebbe is going to explain it in a second. The Rebbe says, he says the truth is that through Torah coming into creation, How does Torah come into creation? Because we connect the 10 utterances, the 10 commandments, it's 10 commandments of 10 utterances, and the 10 commandments is the koach Torah, which is the power to speak. It comes into the actual speaking, which creation, and through that we have the ability now to bring through our speech into the world, and then we're connecting what's beyond, so to say, creation into creation, because the Maamar creates a world. And now, once we have a created world, we have the ability to speak out the words of Torah, not just to think them. Okay, that the idea is to take the dibur, so to say the machshava of Hashem, the thought of Hashem, bring it into speech. Okay, let's see how the Rebbe explains this complicated idea and see how this has to do, because we want to learn through the whole Farbrengen, and we're not going to skip. So we'll go through the hard parts and stand the best we can, and continue to the more emotional, heartsick parts, which are continuation, which are further down. There's the bi'ar dvarim. What does this mean? Mechagis on the one side, dibur hulamayla mamira. The word dibur is higher than the word Bayomer, Amira. Why? Kikashar Hevel Alev. Like we said before, the power to speak is higher than the actual speech itself. Why? So he says, because page 254, when it comes in Bekoil Hagarn, when it comes into the voice, Shemurka Megimla, you say this, Eishmaim Ruach, it comes from the three elements of fire, water, and wind, which is Omar, and that's the root of the word Amira. Shebehem Nichla Gam Yisai Da'afar. And there's also there in their fineness a little bit of earth, but it's not in full force. Otherwise, it's too heavy. Wouldn't allow for voice to travel, etc. That's the voice. That's speaking. Okay. So here the Rebbe doesn't explain what seemingly kind of in the wording of the Tzemach Tzedek seems a little bit unclear. So the Rebbe says, let's break it down. The actual speech, the voice, the sound in the throat, that's Amira, the power to say something, to make a sound. The idea, the words, the letters is the koyach, is like it says, Ruach Mamale, the spirit of the soul, as it's created, is like a bag of words. And the Alter Rebbe talks about the how a person doesn't have to think how to formulate words, right? When you want to pronounce something, it comes automatically because it's so deep rooted in the nefesh. And then it's called the koach hadibur, the power to speak. So there's the actual speech and the power to speak. But on the other side, Matzino, there's also a certain silence in the word Amira. Like it says, I spoke in my heart. What do you mean you spoke in your heart? Speak in your heart it doesn't mean voice. It's possible you have things to say that you're not going to reveal. When you reveal things, it's called dibur over Amira. As it is in its root. So seemingly what he's saying over here is, it's because if we're talking about that the coil of Eishmaim Ruach Offer is Amira, so that coil that's a sound, and the coil is a sound. So what does it mean? Amarti ani belibi is kind of the silent sound within the sound. The silent sound that's within you. It's not necessarily the need to communicate. That's why, for instance, the world is created Baruch Sha'amar V'Olam through the Asar Maimaris, and Torah was created through Dibur. Why? Because Amira it's not about communicating something so much as it is. When you Torah Dibur is really the element of the communication part. So the root of a person is the words that you want to communicate in your head. Actually articulating it, that's the Dibur as it comes out. But the power to speak is that part of that is the Amira itself, without, so to say, the intellect or the idea that's going through the voice. A voice could say anything. You could scream, you could shout, you could sing, you could talk nice words, inappropriate, appropriate, whatever it is. You talk all kinds of things. You talk fast, slow. That's the koyach hadibur. But that's the Amira. But the content of it, of what's being communicated, that's dibur. So therefore, there's a certain. That's why when you say Baruch Shamar that the world was created through the 10 utterances, that's the way the world is an utterance, seemingly separate from Hashem. You're not seeing what Hashem wants, although we see Ma'gad Masech Hashem, we see God's great handiwork, but you don't see the kavanah. You know what's behind creation from just looking at creation. God has to tell Adam, start the Pru, tells Noach, go out there, Pru, go make the world, gives him 7 Noach laws, continues with then comes Matan Torah. And then Hashem communicates what the purpose of the kavanah creation, and that's the koyach hadibur coming out the dibur, and that's how it's separate really from Amira, because in Amira itself, it's not. Amira is its own thing. It's been said. It came into existence. Now, when we say the Torah, when we say words of Torah, when we communicate, what was behind creation, from the power of speaking into speaking, which is the power of communicating Torah, then we understand why there's a creation. And that's what it means, that to integrate the Saras Adibris and the Sarah Mamoris. Yes, you can't communicate the words, the ideas of the Torah in communication without the power of speak. But the power of speech alone is nothing. It's just the power to speak. The actual articulating the ideas comes through Koyach HaDibur. So Koyach HaDibur, basically, what the Rebbe is saying over here, sandwiches the Amira, which is in between. The Rebbe continues, V'tam Adavar. What's this mean? Ki, the whole point is you have to reveal the Koyach HaDibur, the words, the thoughts, the kavanah that's in your head, or in your mind, or in the seichel, or in your motion, right? What does it mean that when you speak something out? To think something out is not going to help a person in Daigas. Usually kind of mixes you up. But if you speak it out to someone, you can speak to someone, you can talk to someone on the airplane. You don't know them, they don't know. You talk it out and you come back and feel a lot better. Why you spoke it out? Someone listened. Right? So it wasn't really the other person. The person didn't give you advice. Just by speaking it out, it clarified things. The daiga went away. The worry went away. So what do we have over here? You need the koach hadibur needs the power to speak. But what's going through, what's being filtered through that's the intellect. So he says, but Tamad over the reason it's you have to take the power of the dibur that comes out in the actual voice of what you're communicating. Then it elevates beyond the speaking itself. The power to speak means there's the power of the voice, and there's the words that are being said. You have sometimes, unfortunately, people that have a lot of dibur in their head, and they don't have they don't have a voice. You have people with voice, and they possibly have a koach dibur in their mind, but they have no way of bringing the koach dibur through their voice. So they have no way. There's people who can't speak, right? So he says, because then it's starting from the high point, going through the power to speak. Why? Like we said, then you're reaching the essence of the soul. Well, is even higher. Like it says, that my soul, the essence of who I am, is able to come out of my speech. And that's why I can break your worries, because the worries are deep and rooted in you, and only when it passes through the actual speaking. So there's the koyach hamira, but you can't just say nothing. You have to say those words that are talking. People just talk it out. You're not talking. You didn't finish saying what you want to say, not because the other person didn't hear, because you haven't said it through yet. You haven't communicated it through yet. If you have worries, talk it out. There's two ideas that it says that you should take it out of your mind by what? By talking it to other people. Why? What's the connection by talking to the other people to taking it out of your mind? Sorry, just jumping a little over here. Why? One of the ways to get it out of your mind is to speak to someone else. There have to be someone there listening. When it comes out, then it's higher than the actual power to speak. When the guy it reaches the root of the soul. If you have something that mamash worries you, the Torah tells you what you do about it. By talking to someone else, by communicating, it's going to lessen the worry. It's going to leave your mind. Why? Because the whole point is to bring everything down. Because the kavanah, you have to remember something. The Hashem doesn't fit in the world. The world fits Hashem. Rebbe says, we saw Sikha, we're learning now, Sikha Yomi, Teres Menachem, Daf Amid Yomi, the Rebbe quotes Rebbe that says that the reason why there's Esser spheres in Tanita, it says that the person has Esser spheres, person has 10 components, 10 attributes within us is like a reflection how there's the 10 attributes in Shemaim. But why is there 10 attributes in Shemaim? Because there's 10 attributes in a person. A person, it means the Seif Mais Machshavat Chila is not just that we fulfilled that Seif Mais, the end thought is in the actual how things complete. You see the end things, you see what the original thought was. It's not just that it reveals, it's not just that it kind of falls into place. That's the Chatchila, the Kavanah. So if the idea is that, what does it mean that daiga ish isachena lacherim is in be isachena midaita, is why is because the whole reason of the whole Seder Hishtalshlus, why the whole world come in creation is that there should be a lamata, that there should be in this world godliness. That was the whole motivating force of why there's a creation in the first place. So that dictates everything. So if the mata, if the end game is not that means Chassidus always explains, it's not that there's higher worlds and very holy places, Atzilus and Bria. There's the major places of holiness and high, and it also expands down to this world. No, the only reason why there's Atzilus is because there's this world. Everything's about here and now, this space, not Olam Haba, not Olam Haza. You want to know what the essence of God is here now, right now in this world. And therefore, that's the motivation for creation. That's the whole purpose of creation. And therefore, that's the end game. And therefore, the mata is it's all about the mata. And therefore, how do we get rid of problems that are on our head? By bringing it down further. The further you bring it down, the more you're connecting everything to its higher purpose. So there's more to say about this, but let's continue. What's the power of talking it out? Is because of it's all about the mata. It's all about the lower this world. And I skill, like we said, the whole point is to take the 10 commandments, to say what's in God's mind, and bring it into Asar Maamar, into the 10 utterances which form the world. So although we said before the coil is the power to speak, that's where the world comes from, because you don't see the kavanah in the creation. Where do you see the kavanah? In the Torah mitzvahs. All right, says, let's just go a little further. Now the Rebbe goes from the seichel, so to say, the haskala of the Maamar and the Farbrengen to the avoid of the Maamar. The Rebbe says, what is it? Because it's all now, it's about bringing it down here. Take the Sarah Maamaris, take the love of Aharon, and the love of Aharon is so limitless that it doesn't even go upwards, it goes down. It's all about Ma'aseh B'Poel. What's the kavanah? What am I doing here? So here the Rebbe goes into, if it's all about bringing it down, so our whole focus has to be, what am I doing here? How do I continue to fulfill the kavanah? And here the Rebbe gets very emotional. The Rebbe's crying throughout the rest of the Farbrengen. This idea that the point is to bring things down. The Rebbe continues, this is what we say in Tehillim, that my tears were like bread, day and night, saying to myself, where's my, I say to myself all day, where's my God? That's a pasuk in Tehillim. So what's this? Where is it in Mem Aleph, Mem Beis? So this is so the Rebbe's not going to explain this pasuk until She'ein shum iskalas aratz mislamata. And why am I crying? Because there's no revelation. Where's the revelation? If the whole point is mata in this world, we should bring revelation. Excuse the noise, so where's the elikus? Why don't we see elikus? By this betfila when a person davens and learns, we're not talking about outside space, we're talking about inside. What's going on in your life, in our life, in my life. When I daven, it's only temporary. I daven, so then I cut myself off from my world and I go into davening and I go into learning Torah. It's not consistent. It's not throughout the day. This is what the pasuk is saying. I say to myself, not that I'm saying to myself all day, where's God? I'm saying to myself, where's God all day? Why am I only having moments of godliness? It's not properly coming down the ear. If it was here down the mata properly, it would be consistent. And this is what we say. What are we saying? The person says, David HaMelech talks on behalf of Klal Yisrael, that dimasi, my tears, that means where do tears come from? Bitterness. My tears were like sustain me. It's a very powerful idea that my tears were lechem, were my bread. Day and night, when I ask myself a whole day, where's God? So the Rebbe says, what does this mean? When a person cries in this bitterness, when a person realizes how much darkness there is, and how much I'm not doing what I should be doing, and how much I'm not bringing down the giloi, and this brings meriris, bitterness in my life. That's why I'm crying. It's dima. It's crying. And the truth is, why you're crying? Because that's what you really want. You don't want it. You don't want the reality that you're living in now, that you're so distracted. You want that it should be kol hayom alikecha. A whole day you should have godliness. This is one of the secrets of Chassidus, that meriris is not a fact. Meriris is an avodah. Bitterness is not a situation. It's a tool. Through bitterness we achieve. And the bitterness comes from why? That I don't have godliness all day. And the bitterness itself creates the revelation. Means why am I bitter? Because there's no revelation. And therefore that's what David Melch saying, that my tears was my bread. Just like bread is a sustenance, I sustain myself from food. The tears that I'm crying about, where is God, is what I sustain myself on. Like he says, my dima, my tears was my bread. So that's the idea that the avoidus hamiriris, bitterness. So I'm bitter because there's no gilui, and the gilui itself comes because I'm bitter. That's how it comes revealed. And what makes a person tired? Well, who creates that this should be this? So the Torah. That my tears are like bread to me day and night. The Rebbe doesn't explain what this means. This is the narrow page means from Tzemach Tzedek. And this is the lechem of Torah. Torah we know is compared to like bread. That's why it says l'chu lachmu. Go take take bread. Belachmi, my bread. The chaber yoyim v'layla midas yoyim midas layla. That we should take the day within us and the night within us through Torah and combine it. That there's the level of Yoim, which is revelation. There's the level of night, which is the world of Atzilus. The level of night, which is the world of Bria creation, because it's darkness. And the idea is that through Torah we combine it all together. So the Torah, through my crying, creates this lechem, the substance that brings down that itself becomes the Gilui Lamata. Now the Rebbe is going to explain what this means, what's the crying, and how does it become substance, and how does the Torah come in over here? We were saying before that you're crying because there is no Torah. Let's just go further. Sifyud Beis will be Pratius Yaiser to explain what the Tzemach Tzedek is saying. The Rebbe quotes David Melch and Hoiseli Dimasi, that Hoiseli, what was to me, Dimasi, my tears were to me lechem, like bread. Means if you put the words together, you're saying that the bread was to me, the tears were to me like bread day and night. What's that mean? The Yehudi, that a Jew, what's the tears? He says the Rebbe says the Jew had the mirirus. Hold on a second. Let's just go a little further. We have a few minutes of battery left here. So the Rebbe is like this. Haisli Demasi. Let's see if there's a whole sif here. Okay, see if we can go. Right, for the Pratius, we're going to have to stop here. I don't have battery on my computer. And I think this is the emotional piece. But as it says, Hashem, we will continue. I'll post when the next class is. Have a wonderful Shabbos, good Chodesh, happy Chanukah.